We've hired a new elite employee, so you don't need to come in tomorrow, old man. Their education and career are top-notch, incomparable to yours. The manager said this to me despite my 20-plus years of uninterrupted service. Hearing such an unreasonable dismissal made me feel like all my efforts were in vain. At the same time, I realized I couldn't work with such a heartless person, so I decided to resign. "Understood," I said, bowed to the hateful manager, and wrote my resignation letter on the spot. The manager was pleased to be rid of me, but it was short-lived. The next day, while welcoming the company president visiting the headquarters, the manager learned an unexpected fact. "By the way, where is my son?" Upon hearing those words, the manager realized the gravity of his actions. "I am Tyler Smith, a 45-year-old ordinary business person. I've always disliked studying and working, even as an adult. However, my serious father forced me to join the company and work, even though I didn't want to. My father is not only serious but also stubborn. My presence in society will only be a burden," I said, but my father wouldn't listen. "It's pathetic. I let you go to college and raised you well, yet this is how you turn out. You probably won't understand just by listening, so get to work." I reluctantly started working, but found it wasn't so bad once I got into it. I started working at a cleaning company. We cleaned everything from air conditioners and floors to mats and the interiors of cars. Requests came in nonstop from both individuals and businesses, keeping us busy. Using the various tools for different cleaning tasks became enjoyable. I got hooked on figuring out the most efficient way to clean using the right tools for each job. There were many types of cleaners, some hazardous to touch, but that didn't matter. I simply enjoyed cleaning. Making something incredibly dirty shine again felt incredibly satisfying. Looking back, I realize I never skipped cleaning, even as a kid. With the support of my coworkers, my skills improved rapidly, leading to my assignment to the headquarters. At headquarters, I wore a suit and worked in sales, but it felt stiff and wasn't fun at all. I quickly found it hard to work there. I've never been great with people, but there was someone I particularly struggled with: Mike White, the sales manager. We didn't see eye to eye and almost clashed many times. The manager was extremely self-centered, focused on maximizing profit and overworking the field employees. He would instruct the workers to perform additional cleaning services not included in the order, and then charge the clients extra. Add optional services proactively. If the customers are satisfied, they'll pay. The key is getting as many requests as possible. If a worker refused, he would call them to headquarters and scold them. His tyrannical methods led to a shortage of workers as they quit one after another. This problem became well known within the company, with concerns growing about the viability of our operations, yet the manager refused to change his approach. I once made a direct appeal to him: "Manager, we should stop these aggressive sales tactics. If more employees quit, the company won't survive." I didn't want to see my colleagues, whom I'd worked with, suffer, but the manager wouldn't listen. "You've got some nerve questioning me. Maybe you should go back to the field and work. That way, there'll be no one left to complain." The manager believed his approach was supreme, and anyone who disagreed or couldn't comply was deemed unnecessary and targeted. It felt like someone as clueless as a monkey was running the place. "You've got guts. I like that. From now on, I'll personally assign you your tasks." But from that moment, the manager started treating me like a troublemaker. "Move the cleaning tools from this branch. We have a big job tomorrow." He started giving me menial tasks unrelated to my actual work. I had a meeting with a client, so moving tools wasn't feasible. When I mentioned the inconvenience to the client, the manager criticized me harshly. "Can't even move stuff, useless old man. How did you even get to headquarters with such low skills? Why don't you go back to the field?" He belittled me in front of everyone. The manager singled out one person to make an example of, ensuring no one else would dare oppose him. Others kept silent, fearing they'd be targeted like me. No one will stand by you, meaning you're a worthless person. Be aware of that and work hard every day. Don't become like this guy. I was fed up with a manager who overworked people and only protected his own interests. Working with such a selfish person made me feel like I was losing my sanity. After years of working here, I started considering quitting. I don't want to deal with that manager anymore. Leaving a familiar workplace is tough, but every time I think about going to work, I remember his face and can't move. You look pale. Are you okay? Maybe you should take a day off. Thanks for worrying, but I think I'd feel worse if I didn't keep myself busy. My coworkers were concerned, and I considered seeing a doctor, but I knew the manager wouldn't accept a doctor's note easily. Instead, it would probably just make him treat me even worse, so I couldn't bring myself to take time off. Even if I rested well over the weekend, I felt heavy and sluggish. Come Monday, I realized I was seriously getting fed up. As I struggled with this mental burden, it began to affect me physically. I felt sluggish every morning. I couldn't sleep well, leading to insufficient rest. This lack of sleep made it hard to concentrate, causing more mistakes at work. They say self-care is part of the job, but maybe the job was preventing me from taking care of myself. Even as my health began to decline, I forced myself to go to work. One day, before the start of the workday, I was called in by the manager alone. The manager approached me with a friendly demeanor, which made me uneasy. His unusually cheerful manner was unsettling. "You've done well up to now. I had high hopes for you, but unfortunately today is your last day." He patted my shoulder meaningfully, repeatedly saying, "Good job, good job." His strange comments left me confused and my mind in a whirl. High hopes. Done well. None of it seemed genuine. Just as I started wondering if he had some intentions, he got to the point. "We've hired a new elite employee, so you don't need to come in tomorrow. Their education and career are far superior to yours." He told me to resign despite my 20-plus years of uninterrupted service. I was speechless at this clear violation of labor laws. By law, they need to notify employees 30 days in advance if they want them to resign. I hadn't done anything harmful to the company, so why was I being forced out? The manager refused to give a detailed explanation, looking exasperated that I didn't understand. His attitude made me realize I couldn't continue working there. "Understood," I said. I didn't want to see his hateful face, so I bowed to the manager, then wrote my resignation letter and handed it to him. I had hesitated to quit until yesterday, but once I did it, I felt a refreshing sense of relief. Maybe long-term employment makes you lose sight of what's important. I've always disliked working. Someone like me shouldn't have been working at headquarters, a job beyond my capacity. That's why I ended up quitting after clashing with others. I thought I would finally sleep well and enjoy my day, but then it happened. The next day, I suddenly received a call from my father. Could it be that he found out I quit? No, that couldn't be. My father wouldn't show up at the workplace now. But my bad feeling was right. "Where are you, and what are you doing?" With that one question, I realized my father knew I had resigned. In a heavy voice, he demanded to know what happened and told me to come to the office immediately. I quickly changed into a suit and headed to the office. In the conference room, my father, the president, and the manager were waiting. Yes, my father was the chairman, Keeney Smith. He built a company with annual sales of $100 million from scratch. Not only is he a brilliant manager, but even at over 70, he still has a burning passion for his work. "You finally showed up. I was worried when you disappeared after keeping it up for so long." The manager sitting next to my father looked pale, like a different person from yesterday. He must have realized I was the chairman's son and was shocked. The president kindly prepared a seat for me. Despite the respectful gesture, it only made me more nervous and unable to relax. "When I came to see you." He seemed puzzled. When I first started working, my father often visited the site to check on me. I repeatedly told him not to come because it was embarrassing, but he kept watching over me out of concern. He wasn't mistrusting me, he was just very worried. I didn't know. I had no idea you were the chairman's son, the manager muttered, making excuses in a low voice. He seemed eager to deny any responsibility, but it wasn't entirely his fault that he didn't know. My father had gone to great lengths to keep that fact hidden. Very few people in the company, including the president, knew the truth. According to my father, this was to ensure that being related to the chairman wouldn't affect my work. Tell me the truth. What happened that you stopped coming to work? I found it odd that he said, stopped coming. I had submitted my resignation to the manager. I decided to direct my father's question back to the manager. I didn't just stop coming. I resigned. I gave you my resignation letter, didn't I, Mr. White? I definitely submitted it to you. Caught off guard, the manager became visibly nervous. He started trembling and sweating profusely. Seeing his obvious distress, I began to suspect that he hadn't told my father the truth. If he had forced the chairman's son to quit for an elite new hire, it would be bad for him. As I formed this theory, the manager started to stammer out a response. I didn't want you to quit, so I still have your resignation letter with me. That sounded problematic in itself, and trying to lie at this point, saying he didn't want me to quit, took some nerve. I realized that if I didn't expose the manager's true nature now, the company could be at risk. Didn't you tell me you hired an elite new employee and didn't need an old guy like me anymore? You said it in front of everyone before the start of the workday. As I revealed the truth, a cold silence fell over the room. The manager started trembling even more, overwhelmed by the tension. Is that true? My father asked. I've never heard of any elite new hire. Besides, we've barely had any applicants recently. In recent years, there have been very few applicants, especially young ones, despite our recruitment efforts. Yet the manager clearly said he hired an elite newcomer. My memory was correct, but the manager remained silent. My father, frustrated, pressed for the truth. Well, Mr. White, where is this elite new hire? Introduce them to us. If you can do that, I'll put you in charge of recruitment. He offered this as a concession to encourage the manager to confess, but the manager remained silent. I never said anything like that. It must be a misunderstanding. The manager offered a feeble excuse. Despite being cornered, he seemed determined to protect himself, curling up defensively like a pill bug. Unfortunately for him, there was no one here willing to let him off the hook. If your account differs from mine, we'll have to ask the employees who witnessed your interactions, my father said, declaring his intention to investigate. At that moment, the manager suddenly dropped to his knees and bowed deeply. Please forgive me. If I had known he was the chairman's son, I would never have done this. I've always worked hard for the company's sake. His desperate bow was not an effective move. Instead, it only seemed to confirm his suspicious actions. My father, clearly exasperated, said, If you truly believe you're in the right, you wouldn't need to bow. Stand up and face this. Besides, there have been many complaints about you beyond my issue. How do you explain those? I don't know anything about that. We've received numerous complaints from clients in the field. I came to the office today to address those issues, and I was shocked to find out my son had resigned. With that, my father decided to launch a thorough investigation of the manager. The investigation revealed many of the manager's misdeeds. Numerous complaints had been filed against his tyrannical methods, including reports of him threatening employees on site. He came to the site suddenly and threatened me, one worker said. He said if I didn't follow orders, I'd have to go to headquarters and resign. He would visit branches with poor sales records and threaten employees with termination, forcing them to improve their performance. Several field workers reported this, suggesting it was a common practice. My father finally spoke. Why did you quit? You were doing well in the field. I was surprised to find you weren't there, but this wasn't the only issue with the manager. Clients also reported much higher charges than before. An investigation revealed that he had been inflating sales invoices. Shockingly, he was funneling the extra revenue into his own account. This fact came to light thanks to a whistleblower in the accounting department. He told me there was a money-making opportunity, so I did it. I tried to stop several times, but he threatened me each time. So I couldn't do anything. The manager bribed someone in the accounting department to process the inflated invoices and deposit the money into a separate account. The investigation revealed that he had embezzled nearly $300,000. These unprecedented events left my father stunned. One person caused all this. It's unbelievable how much damage has been done by just one person. The manager was consequently dismissed, and the company sought damages from him. The total losses could amount to an astronomical figure. As a result, the former manager was served divorce papers by his wife and now has to spend the rest of his life working to repay the damages on his own. The consequences of living recklessly finally caught up with him. The fate of those who cling to power is indeed terrifying. After that, my resignation was revoked, and I was reinstated in the company. The company's turmoil had spread to the field employees, and I received word from my old colleagues expressing their concern. Even though I had been away from the field for over 5 years, knowing that people still remembered me brought me great comfort. I resumed wearing a suit for sales in the morning and helping out at understaffed job sites in the afternoon. My father told me to stop working in the field, but I felt that my roots were there. Cleaning was a source of joy for me, and working on site was a great stress reliever. My father was exasperated by this, but it was during my field work that I met a female employee who would become my wife. He often remarked, "Only you would prefer cleaning in work clothes over working in a suit. But thanks to that, you found your wife. Life is unpredictable." Eventually, I moved away from the field to work full-time at headquarters. I wanted to increase my income for the sake of my wife, who was expecting our child. Although I had always disliked studying and hard work, I found cleaning fulfilling. I still enjoy cleaning, but now my family is my greatest joy. For my family, I can endure the discomfort of sales work. One day, I'll likely take over my father's company. There's a lot I need to learn before then. I want to secure a comfortable new home for my growing family and create an environment conducive to raising children, so I need to earn more money. I used to hate studying and working, but now I believe all of it was necessary. I feel like I've grown through my work experiences. Going forward, I will continue to work hard for my family, but I also want to cherish the time I spend with them.